South Africans are facing different challenges, from COVID-19 to unemployment, the high cost of living. Now, Erik Kruger's new book, Dangerous, is an invitation to step out of survival mode and become more formidable, or rather a more formidable version of yourself. In the book, he explains that survival mode is a physical place and a state of being. Author Erik Kruger joins me now. Erik, thank you so much for joining us. And first of all, congratulations on penning such an easy yet very effective read. Most importantly about the book is that the principles that it gives you is not just for one thing, but in how to apply it in your life. What inspired Dangerous?
Thank you. So about 3 years ago, I spoke to this client of mine. So I do partly executive coaching, team coaching, work with many organizations, leaders and teams. And I had this moment where I was speaking to this one client, and everything in his life was going well, except that mentally he was stuck in survival mode. And we thought that, there's something that leads you to that state, right? Something happens that in your life or in your business, and you end up in survival mode. And I wanted to figure out what was that thing. And after a lot of contemplation, I one day realized that when I was looking at this client of mine, he'd become harmless. He lost his bite, his edge, the things that made him formidable, that made him grow, taking a risk, all of those things. He just lost it. He was like a shell. And so I told him this. I said to him, you are harmless. And he said, that's exactly how I feel. We unpacked it a bit in the session. And then right at the end, I said to him, if you aren't going to be harmless, then what will you be? And he said, dangerous. And the moment he said that, I was like, yes, of course. We all want to be a little bit dangerous. And that kind of set me off on the journey to figure out what does it mean to live a life where you are formidable, where you are focused, where you are effective, and where you are bold.
Well, certainly. And I think the book focuses on igniting that courage to tackle our threats head on. And it's referring to elements mostly within us in terms of how we can tackle being good business leaders, how we can be great in relationships. But why is it that most of us find comfort in that comfort zone?
Yeah, so through the journey that I went on with this idea, because the word dangerous obviously is quite provocative. And I wanted to re-unpack what does it mean for us to be dangerous in the different things that we face every single day. And what we ended up with as a definition for what it means to be dangerous is that when you are dangerous, you cultivate a certain pattern of thinking, feeling, and acting that empowers you to overcome the threats in your life. And one of the biggest threats that we have to face is the threat of complacency. Is that very often things in our life go okay, and over time, that routine just kind of leads to a loss of skill, a loss of mental sharpness. And we don't even notice it. We don't notice that slow erosion that's happening in the background. And then one day you kind of wake up and you realize, I'm not where I wanted to be. Things aren't going the way that I thought they should go. And then it's too late. You are in survival mode already. And then it's cool, because often that becomes the catalyst thing that says, okay, it's time to get back to being dangerous again. It's time to get back to being formidable and sharpening myself.
Now, you describe 3 states of mind in the book. The first is harmless, like you've mentioned now, which is one state of survival, and we often approach threats with avoidance and with not so much force, like you mentioned with the person that inspired you to come up with the term dangerous. Then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the reckless one, the one that's reckless towards their threats, that overinvests their resources into these threats. And then there's that sweet spot in between, and that is being dangerous, where you are composed and you've got calculated risks in terms of how you approach your threats. What does it take for one to reach that equilibrium, that place of being dangerous?
First off is that you need to know that there are threats, and you need to accurately assess those threats. What I've come to realize, especially over the past couple of weeks, is that what human beings are quite good at doing is saying, yes, we have threats, but these threats are this big homogeneous group of things that exist. We don't specify exactly what the threats are. And you have to realize that everything in your life is being threatened in some shape or form, whether that's in your business or in your relationships or your health. There are threats to all of those things. And saying that isn't a pessimistic thing, it's just reality. And the question is that once you've seen what these threats are and they are real, what will you do about them? And your response is going to be dictated by how you think, feel, and act. And so what I often suggest to people is that once you've identified the threat, is to go and write out, where is the failure perhaps happening? What is preventing you from overcoming this threat? Is it that you are not thinking clearly enough about it? So there's a failure in your assessment or your analysis or your planning in terms of how you approach the threat. Is it an emotional issue that maybe you are overreacting to the threat, or maybe you are underreacting? Maybe you are coming from a place of low energy, depression, anxiety, fear, frustration. And then finally, at the level of execution is what you're doing effective enough? Like, do you have the skill that you need to overcome the threat? Do you need to go and learn a new skill? Do you need to refine a skill? Do you need to find someone else who has that skill to help you overcome it? So that little framework is actually incredibly useful for helping someone recalibrate how they can become a threat to the threat.
Lastly, Erik, is being dangerous not reserved for a select few? Can anybody be dangerous?
I think everyone has to be dangerous. And just to caveat this again, like when I say here, be dangerous, I mean be a threat to the things that are threatening in your life. One of the things in the book, one of the chapters I speak about is that others need to be able to stand in your danger. And all this means is that your ability to be a threat to the threat in any situation also protects those around you. And so if you, like, when I do keynotes, this is often the part that really hooks people, because mothers will hear this and they'll go, of course, like when something is a threat to my children, I'm going to be a threat to that threat,
right.
A threat to that threat. I'm going to be dangerous. And the thing is, if you aren't in that moment, you let them down. You actually expose them to risk. So you being a threat to the threat not only serves you, but it serves the people around you. And so if you care about the people around you, if you care about your dreams, about your potential, about your goals, all of those things need to be able to stand in your ability to be a threat to the threat. So I think it's for everyone. If everyone reaches that, that's definitely debatable, but it is for everyone.